Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Football Sweet Chat Show. I'm of course your host Leon, and as with me always, my co-host Richard, head of social media Andrew, and today we have a new guest. We've got Andy, the Everton fan.
Hi guys, thanks for inviting me on.
Great to have you on. Obviously we want different fan opinions, and obviously it's going to help with a topic today that we know that Richard's quite interested in regarding Everton. But today's topics are the rapid decline in Everton's form, the African Cup of Nations, teams losing the valuable players in important times of the season, especially when it's coming up to title challenging, and what's happened to Leeds United once a force in English football suddenly have drifted away. But let's get into the first topic. Richard, I'll let you take this one away, and Andy, I want you to reply instantly.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Look, I mean, I think last season was a bit of a strange one for Everton. They looked frightening, and I think a lot of it was just a different style of football. I think with David Moyes being a manager for such a long period of time than what he was, you knew what you were getting from Everton. They were going to be solid at the back. They weren't going to come out all guns blazing after the first 30 seconds and be on the attack constantly. They were a team that was solid defensively. They played decent football, and they'd nick the odd game, 2-1, 1-0, whatever it may be. But they were defensively sound. And then Moyes goes to Manchester United. Martinez comes in, who's attacking minded. And I think a lot of teams went to Everton expecting Everton of old, and they caught a lot of teams out because they weren't the defensive team anymore. They were the team that was still solid at the back, but they actually gave.
Yeah, and also they brought in important players, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I think we've mentioned it a couple of times on the show that they had Lukaku there that was pretty much playing was a contract at Everton, or whether that was for Chelsea to turn around and go, actually this lad's a decent player, we're going to put him in the first team next year. He was playing for something. He had that check. Another club, could he stay at Everton? Could Chelsea give him the opportunity? Now he's got a lucrative deal. He's at a club. He's settled. He's playing week in, week out, and it doesn't look like there's that fight anymore, that bite to him. And I was shocked. I'll be perfectly honest. This is no disrespect to Everton, because I quite like Everton. I think they're a decent footballing club, and I've said it a few times. I don't understand why a big name in regards to an owner has never come in to buy Everton, because they've got the fan base there and the stature of a football club to be a continuing success. But I was shocked when Chelsea made it blatantly obvious that Lukaku wasn't going to be in their plans, how nobody else came in for him. I honestly thought he was a player that was going to set the world alight. He's only a kid. He's got plenty of time left in him, but he looks a different player this season.
Do you think this season we're seeing what Chelsea may have saw?
Go on, mate. Take it away. You're an Everton fan, aren't you?
I mean, what you're saying is spot on. I mean, when Moyes left the club, we were in a good position, consistently challenging for Europa League football, up in the top half of the league, the odd good cup run, and that was built on a solid defence. We had a wonderful back four. We had a settled team, and like you said, teams come to Everton knowing to get a tough game. And when Martinez came in, we still had that kind of structure. Teams are going to come to Everton. They were going to be, they're going to be wary of us, and they're going to be tough to break down. But we had that extra attacking flair that was a bit unique and
a bit of a threat.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked in our favour. Last year we got a record points tally in the Premier League. We could have got the Champions League if it weren't for a few dodgy results towards the end of the season. We played some of the bigger boys off the park in certain games in the season. We were a fantastic team to watch. And this season, it's just we've gone back. We regressed so far this year. Why, we could go on all night and kind of discuss different points about it, but it's worrying to see this year. It's really worrying. And I think your point about Lukaku, for me, he's not getting played to his strengths. Lukaku needs him running at defenders. He's great on the ball. He's a terrifying striker to play against. Any defender will not like coming up against him. And we're not playing to his strengths. He's putting his back to goal. He's getting no service. And, for a striker that costs 28 million to have 6 league goals going into February it's not good enough.
Especially the striker that we saw last year, exactly. Was so prolific.
I mean, look at even at West Brom, he scored, I think it was 16, 17 goals that season for West Brom, and that was mainly off the bench. And he's getting older, he's getting more experience. I'm just starting to worry whether we're going to be getting the best out of him. Because the way Martinez has seemed to be playing him, he's not getting the best out of him. And until he starts changing his approach and playing a more direct game, he's going to be struggling. And he's going to get the goal here and there, but he's not going to live up to that price tag. And, fans are fickle at times. We all are.
Definitely.
He's not going to be banging in the goals. People are going to be turning around on the terraces. We paid 28 million for this lad. He's going to get stick and it's going to knock his confidence. He's still a young lad. He's still only 21. You'd think his best years are to come, but I'm really starting to worry about where he can fulfil his potential at Everton with Martinez in charge. I'm really starting to worry.
Yeah, I know a topic Andrew said quite a while ago. He said that maybe Lukaku's head isn't in it as much as it would have been if he was on loan and thinking, I need to impress because I need to stay at the club I'm at. Andrew, what do you think to this? Do you still have those opinions?
Yeah, I do a little bit about Lukaku, but in terms of Everton, I think it's just one of those where I think maybe Europa League's played a part in it as well. Obviously, we've all got our thoughts on the Europa League, how much it takes out of a team, but I think you got to remember as well, Everton always had a reputation under David Moyes of starting seasons quite slowly and always being mid-season, like mid-half of the table. Like, Everton are going to be fine. And I think Martinez did so well last season that you can't simply just say, that's it, it's over. They have to change it. They have to change him or something, like some people are saying. So I think with Everton, I think they will be fine. I think it's just going to take time and it's going to take players to settle in.
See, I wish I had your optimism, Andy. I wish I shared that optimism because watching us week in and week out, everyone keeps saying the same thing. You're a big club, you've got the players, you're going to stay up. But if you watch us every week, we're not looking great. We're in real danger this year. I'm
pretty shocked that they've let him go, but I don't understand why Samuel Eto'o's left the club after just 6 months.
Well, there seems to be something going on there. I mean, it's all rumours and that, but there seems to be a lot of dressing room unrest with Eto'o.
Because I mean, to have a player. I mean, this isn't a knock at Everton. I actually do like Everton as a football club, but Samuel Eto'o's calibre in your football team, especially alongside the calibre of Lukaku, so doesn't sit right there with me. How after 6 months he's gone because he didn't sign on loan, did he? He was purchased. He came and it was a contract.
Yeah, we signed him down. We signed him on a 2-year deal.
And 6 months later, he's out the door and he's now in Italy. Something's not right there because it's not as if he's come to the club and he's on 200 grand a week and he's not doing the job. For the job that you want Samuel Eto'o to be doing, you want him to be that player in training that's showing Lukaku and the other players you've got around the calibre that he's played and clubs he's played at. But he's done the job. He's come on. He scored against Chelsea. He scored the odd goal. He's got him back in games or he's put him into the lead. That's what you want from a player in his early 30s towards the end of his career. And after 6 months, sat there with me, to be fair.
No, there's something going on there. There's something dodgy happened. I mean, it's all speculation, but there's a lot of rumours going around that there was dressing room unrest. I mean, I'm sure you guys watched the West Brom game last week. Morales taking the penalty.
I was really shocked at that. That's a lot of I don't know what goes on in training, but you think free kick taker, penalty taker, Baines, and
exactly. He's been the every set piece and penalty for the last 4 or 5 years now. It's been Baines.
Yeah, and he's sort of I'm not going to say he's like the sort of leader legend of Everton, but he certainly is a senior player and.
Definitely.
You back down to your seniors, you listen to what they say. And considering we've seen Baines be a real set-piece specialist, to do that, and you know what, if he puts it away, not a problem, but to miss it, it makes it 10 times worse. And it also, and then all the stories come out, unrest in the dressing room, and it doesn't do anyone any good. No. But especially Everton at the moment, they need that lift, and I don't know where it's going to come from at the moment unless they spend some money in the window, but then who are they going to bring in other than a loan? Because last year I really liked Deulofeu on loan, but I can't see them getting him again. So,
no. I mean, Deulofeu for us, he was a bit of a unknown quantity when he came. A young lad from Barcelona. You're not expecting to set the world on fire. He's going to be a bit of a raw talent, but he changed so many games for us last season. He was fantastic when he came on. He didn't play a big role. He wasn't a Morales or a Baines or a Lukaku, but he played a fantastic side role for us, and we're missing it this year.
There's also reports of Ross Barkley potentially leaving the club. Do you think that'll be a big loss to Everton at the moment, or?
At the moment, no, I wouldn't think so. I'm not sure what's happened over the last 6 months, but he's not been the same player as he was last year. Something's happened with Ross Barkley. Whether it's happened,
he's another player that is. I think a lot with again, and it's not just Ross Barkley. I think it's the young English talent.
Yeah,
too much hype's put on him too soon. And
they're expecting Ross Barkley to be a sort of world beater before the time he's even settled.
You see in the press, people comparing him to Gascoigne
and then to get a 30-40 million pound fee for him.
That's too much. That's the thing. Even like they have like 2 good games against a good side, and then they want another contract. It's got to be hard on the actual manager as well, because he's trying to.
It's not saying that he's not a decent. For all we know, that Ross Barkley could go on and end up playing for United or Chelsea or Arsenal or Real Madrid or Barcelona, and he end up being one of the English talents the world's ever seen. But to break through into the team like he did, and then automatically, it was after one or two, we're talking 50 million to City, and David Moyes was going to spend 50-60 million pound on him.
It's crazy talk, isn't it? It's when you look at it.
Into United, and it's after 2 games.
That's the problem. There's just you look at the press we have in the UK as well. We love to build up somebody to knock them down, and we built up Ross Barkley at the moment. He's the next biggest thing. Between him and Raheem Sterling, they're going to lead England to glory in future World Cups. And
2 matches down the line, they're rubbish if they haven't scored a hat trick in each match.
Some players can take it. Some players take it on the stride. Look at Rooney as a kid. He kicked on. He had the mental strength to cope with it. But
a big. If you want to look at sort of young English talent who sort of has improved slowly but hasn't grown to the heights they did. Andrew will know is Walcott. He was built to be the next biggest thing, and I don't think he's ever developed the talent that everyone thought he was going to. But the minute he didn't, it was he's terrible, don't worry about Walcott, instead of actually supporting him. What do you think to that, Andrew? Do you think Ross Barkley could kick on and be a real force?
Yeah, I really hope so, because every time I've watched Ross Barkley, he does seem to play well. So like what we're saying though, you guys are bringing up great points. It's the idea that we're all, as the England fans we are, we're like bombarding him with our next captain and everything like that, and he's only played 2 good games. So you just got to give kids like Ross Barkley time, and I'm sure he'll mature in his own time and become the player we all think he'll be.
Definitely. As an Everton fan myself, that's what we hope. He's a young lad. He's from Liverpool. He's been brought through the academy. He's an Evertonian at heart. So it's always nice to see those players coming through your academy, and it does create that extra bit of specialness for us. But the way things are going, he's not looking in form. He's looking low on confidence, and whether it's to do with the whole media hype, whether he's believing his own hype. You don't know who's in his ear. He goes on England duty, he could be getting told by some of the senior players there that he's the next big thing, and you just don't know. And it's starting to affect his game a lot this season. I hope he's going to, I hope he turns it around in the second half. I think a big thing for him as well is he's been played out of position too often.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like Everton at the moment, they don't actually know what position Ross Barkley plays in.
Again, he's been put on the wing. He's been played in centre mid. For me, Barkley, he's best behind the striker.
Yeah,
he links up with Lukaku well. Naismith's been great for us this past year and a half. I'll take my hat off to him. I thought he was going to be a disaster, and he's turned things around. He's been a wonderful player, such a hard-working, talented footballer. So he's been trying to include Naismith in that squad, and he's not an out-and-out striker. He's not a winger. He has to play behind the striker, and it's Barkley's getting forced out wide, and it's not going to work for him. It's not his strongest position. If we want him to grow and be the player we all want him to be, not just an Everton point of view, from an England point of view, he's got to play in his strongest position week in, week out, and then he's going to grow and develop. There's no point putting him out on the wing. He's going to study his developments, and he's going to be one of those, another England player who's failed to live up to the hype.
Yeah, and when we look at Ross Barkley at the moment, I think, my personal opinion, you see Jack Rodwell and then you see Wayne Rooney, and you think, could he go down the same path as either Rooney or Rodwell? Rodwell being the sort of lesser path than Rooney being the better path. But what do you think, Richard? Do you think he's going to become a Rooney, or do you think he's going to become a Rodwell if he decides to leave Everton?
And I don't know, to be fair. I think the thing with Jack Rodwell, I think he had all the ability in the world. But I just think, again, it's just another one of these players that, for whatever, they see pound signs, and it's not just a dig at Man City. You know, Chelsea did it when Chelsea got the money. You look at the players
like Scott Parker and that. Yeah.
Scott Parker, Damien Duff, Sidwell. You see all these players. What was the lad's name? He ended up going to Fulham. Scott Parker. Yeah, Scott Parker. We mentioned. Yeah. So you look at them players that were, at the time, they were on the fringe. They were the best players at their respected football clubs. They were on the fringe of international appearances. They go to Chelsea. Obviously the first season they play week in, week out, and then the year after, because Chelsea have won something or got somewhere, finished a bit higher, they've got more money to spend. The more names come in, and they spend the rest of the careers sat on the bench. I mean, I think one of the best examples of it is Sean Wright-Phillips.
Yeah.
Sean Wright-Phillips leaves Manchester City, pretty much sit on the bench at Chelsea, go back to Manchester City, they get their money and start by, and then all of a sudden Sean Wright-Phillips is now, where is he?
Is he still at QPR?
Yeah, he's on the bench at QPR, and
that's a bit of a
do nothing.
That's a bit of a depressing career.
And the thing is, it's like the. Exactly. Now, I'm not saying if he goes to Manchester United, he'll have a better career than if he goes to Manchester City. But the thing is with Manchester City, they've got an owner at their football club, and the same with Chelsea. They've got an owner at their football club that if they don't win something that season, they throw money at it. Go and get the world's best player. Go and spend £100 million on Pogba or Strootman, or try and get Neymar, or try and get Messi or somebody.
You know what? I think that's
if he goes to Arsenal or United, he'll be nurtured into and he was more likely to have a career. And it's the same with Jack Rodwell. He ruined his career going to Manchester City, and the other lad's the same. Scott Sinclair.
Yeah.
Look at that lad now. Where is he? I didn't even know he was still at Man City. I didn't even know he was still a footballer.
Yeah, but the thing is, I personally think that definitely when you said about the sort of bosses and Chelsea and stuff like that, I don't think the bosses are the main problem. I think it's the problem of the actual managers, because the managers aren't staying for long enough. So, like for instance, Carlo Ancelotti could have built a youthful setup and think in 3-4 years these players are going to come into the squad, but you're not there in 3 or 4 years, and then the manager that comes in, no, don't like them sort of players, not my style, so they get shipped off. And that's what you see with managers. Okay, yeah, it is partly the boss's fault for sacking the manager, but we don't have enough stability in football. So how are you expecting youth players or players that are low in the squad to push on through? Because they're not going to get the chance when we can buy a player probably the same skill ability of someone like Scott Sinclair for half the price of an English player.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, an interesting point about Ancelotti now.
I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem you got. And the thing is, it always seems to happen to Everton, because Everton are a football club that everybody knows needs the money. It's not a secret in football. Bill Kenwright loves the football club, but Bill Kenwright is constantly looking for a new.
Yeah,
he wants somebody to come and buy the football club, and I've never understood why nobody does. And I think people know that if you put a big enough bid in for somebody at Everton Football Club, you're going to get that player. It's not a case of they want the player to go. The player might not even want to leave, but it's a case of we can't turn this money down. We can't turn this money down.
And also, I think nowadays, if a team like sort of Chelsea, United, City or Arsenal come calling, they think Champions League football, that's the chance I'm getting, and then don't look past it and don't think, well, is it worth me going to a club playing Champions League football if I'm not actually going to get the chance to play Champions League football, if I'm just going to be sitting on the bench or not even getting to that bit? I think players need to look at the paths that they're taking. And I think Ross Barkley seems like the sort of player who is enjoying his football at the moment. Maybe that will become part of the decisions that he does make, but we've seen it before, haven't we?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I mean, Everton have got a football club there that, rightly so, should be in a position where they should be kicking on. The Everton Football Club should be quality for the Champions League season in, season out, because they've got that club stature about them. The problem that they've got is that once they get a player that's worth the weight in gold, they have to sell them. So if Everton Football Club could find an investment from somewhere where they can turn round to Ross Barkley and say, well, why do you want to go to Chelsea? They're going to pay you 150 grand a week, but you're going to sit on the bench. We'll pay you 80 grand a week, 100 grand a week, whatever it may be here, and you'll play week in, week out, and you'll be a club legend. Let's get in a Champions League. If they could get that investment, that backing, Everton Football Club could be a force in Europe, because they've got the fan base, they've got everything that they need. Everton Football Club, they've got a great youth system, highly proven that they've got a great youth system. They're constantly bringing you through the ranks. They don't go out and a lot of money on Lukaku. They don't go out and spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million pound on players. They nurture players that pretty much, would you ever have thought Leighton Baines would have ended up being the best left back in the Premier League, as he has been for the last however many years?
No,
not
exactly.
Really.
That's very true. I mean, the issue we've got at the moment, you talk about investors, in an ideal world, we get bought out, we get a good bit of money pumped in. It could go two ways. You mentioned your Cities and your Chelseas, pumping in millions of pounds, and it's worked for them. But then for every Chelsea, you get a Portsmouth or a Blackburn. And that's the worry, I think, for a lot of Evertonians. Do we want to, risk our future for a shot at success? Because it could go horrendously wrong. And like we've seen with the Venkis and the numerous ones at Portsmouth, it's gone horrendously wrong, and it's brought the club to the knees.
Yeah, and at point, like having European football, it was just really high, and then buying players that they couldn't actually afford, and then just end up completely losing the whole club at points.
Exactly. And I think another issue of Everton is, if you look at investors, if you look at the clubs that are being bought out, the likes of Man City, City had a stadium in place, they had a world-class venue in the Etihad after the Commonwealth Games ready to go. In terms of investment, there's no new stadium. It could be pumped straight into the training, development and players. If you want to buy Everton, the first thing we have to do is buy a stadium. And that's what's holding, I think, a lot of investors back. It's going to cost at least 400, 500 million for a stadium. Then you start pumping money into the squad. Then you start pumping money into the infrastructure, plus the bid for the club itself. You're looking at close to $1 billion already. And that's the issue I think we've got. I think we're in a bit of a tough position because we need to move forwards, but we can't do that without investments. But without investment, with the facilities we've got and the stadium we've got, we're not going to attract it. And it's just you don't really see where this investment's coming from, because as a proposition, it's great having the fan base and the history that we've got, but without the structure these days and the corporate facilities of the stadium, it's very hard to attract these investors. I think that's what we're lacking, and I think it's going to hold us back until we get any sort of investment to get a new stadium.
Yeah.
And that's the big sticking point for me. No one's going to invest 700, 800 million pound in Everton when he could go and buy West Ham for half the price and have an Olympic stadium to move into.
Yeah, that's true. That was actually a really good topic. We'll go on to the next topic now. The African Cup of Nations, teams losing valuable players at a crucial time of the season. We've seen it recently with Yaya Toure. We've seen it previously with Chelsea when we lost Michael Essien and John Obi Mikel. Andrew, what do you think of this topic?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because the idea of the Premier League players just kind of jetting off during January, probably the most could be seen as the most important month of the season, because games come so quick after each other. For
such important players as well, like we've seen Yaya Toure is such a important player for City. If a couple of players are injured, they need to rely on him, and he's not there. And also we've seen City buy Wilfred Boney over the transfer window, and he hasn't even played a match yet because he's with the Ivory Coast.
But yeah, of course, and they run the risk of him possibly getting an injury over there in his competitive football, which could actually injure him for the rest of the season and waste all their money that they've spent on him. But it's a tough one.
That'd be funny though, wouldn't
it? It is a tough one, because what we're going to say, get rid of the African Cup of Nations, we can't really say that. It is one of those things where it's not every year, so I suppose it's not as bad. And obviously I'm going to say that because I don't think Arsenal's been affected this season really by it. So
yeah, like if you suddenly had sort of like Alexis Sanchez jetting off
Oh yeah, it'd be a completely different story.
Yeah, like I've seen with Chelsea in the past, like we had like when Essien was in his prime and Drogba suddenly just leaving the squad, and you're like, okay, we need that goal scorer, we need that man in midfield, but luckily we had Lampard who stabbed us all in the back. But we won't get onto that topic today. But
Super Frank.
I was going to ask you guys as well. I mean, just talking about the African Cup of Nations, could there be an argument to move it perhaps? I mean, it's at the worst part of the season for clubs, like we said, players leaving at a critical time. Is there an argument to move it to maybe a summer tournament, maybe alongside the Euros?
What would the weather be like though in Africa during the summer?
Yeah, that was the problem of having the whole World Cup in the winter, wasn't it?
I just personally think with the amount of football that we play these days, and I think a lot of this has got to do with the FA, FIFA, UEFA. They're all run by people that are, no disrespect, but they're all run by people that are old.
They're businessmen, aren't they?
You know, they're businessmen, but they remember football, and it was League One and League Two, and there was 10 teams in each, and you played.
Yeah, it wasn't like 11 o'clock kickoffs, was it?
Yeah, whereas now there's that much competitive league football throughout the whole of Europe and throughout the world. These international tournaments are dated, and they're even talking about bringing back the home nations, the England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Where are they going to put that? You know, we've got the African nation, we've got the World Cup, we've got the Olympics, which obviously now football, and football's quite big for the Olympics, so you've got is going there, which is the under-21s as well, but you still got a couple of the over-21s in there. You've got, you know, all of these tournaments and trophies that are being played for, as well as all the ridiculous international friendlies, World Cup qualifiers, European Championship qualifiers. For me, it's dated. These tournaments are dated, and yeah, they were good back in the day when there wasn't a lot of football. But when you're playing as many games as what I mean, if you look at the World Cup's just been and gone, whoever played in the World Cup final has pretty much now played solid for 18 months nearly.
Yeah,
that's true.
Football pretty much at least once or twice a week for the last 18 months.
I mean, I remember a point, obviously, being a Chelsea fan, you'd know, but I remember there was a point when Juan Mata played so much football that he played like... he played that year for Chelsea, we won the Champions League. Then he played in the Euros, and then he played in the Olympics, and then another season for Chelsea. It's just like, give the guy a break sort of thing. But also, you're looking at footballers nowadays, and that some of them, especially if it's Champions League, because you're going to put out your best team if it's Champions League. But say if you've got, like Real Madrid have at the moment, where they've got the league, the domestic trophies, the Champions League and the FIFA Club World Cup, then that's a big congested season. And when you see leagues like the Bundesliga where they have that long break, you know, the Premiership doesn't have that. And do you think it's something they should bring in?
I mean,
how boring would Christmas be if there was no football?
That's my main point.
Yeah,
how boring would it be?
Boxing Day football is by far the best day of the year.
True.
You can get up after a long Christmas day, sit on the couch. You've got football all day. There's always cracking fixtures, and then you've got 2 more days to wait for the next lot. I mean, for me, the Christmas period football is by far the best part of the season, and I wouldn't want to change it. But then again, I'm a fan. I don't have to play. You know, I can see my family on Christmas Day. I don't have to work Christmas Day like these guys do, and it's a tough one because there's two contrasting opinions. What's good for the fans might not be.
Do you think maybe a later one then? Maybe January, the whole transfer window. Maybe a long month's break then.
I mean, again, I've got the issue is where we're going to get all our games in. You know, we've got the longest season of all of the European teams. We've got the 2 cups, obviously, whereas Spain and Germany don't have the 2 competitions. They only have the 1 cup. So we're trying to squash in games where we can. If we take another 4 weeks out of our calendar, you're gonna have 4 games a week at some point. And is that feasible? Can that be done?
No, but then I'm just thinking later in the year, some of the teams that are in the Champions League will probably have near to that anyway. But I do understand what you're saying.
The thing is, though, we could easily. I mean, the Carling Cup. It's a great trophy for your small, mediocre teams like Chelsea and Liverpool.
Or MK Dons
for it. Okay,
that's hurt that has.
You know, the small, mediocre teams that really, really want to win the Rumbelows Cup or whatever it used to be called. But that trophy, why not let the under-21s compete for that? Why not just put that out there for the youth teams?
I think I put
a trophy.
I wouldn't.
The Carling Cup and put it out there for the youth teams.
I think
that to me just devalues the whole competition. It's
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Like if you're going to do that, you might as well get rid of it fully.
The competition's got no value anyway.
Yeah, but it does get you into Europe.
Yeah, but it got no value whatsoever at the Carling Cup. Not to any of the big teams. The only reason why Chelsea have played the first strength team, the full strength team, is because they play in Liverpool and vice versa. If Chelsea had been playing MK Dons or Bradford, hey, I'm joking. If they'd have been playing a team like that, they'd have put reserve team out. And
I mean, I can understand. I can understand why teams
put the reserve team out.
Because I mean, personally, like especially now that if you win the Europa League, that you get a spot in the Champions League. I mean, that's opened that position up to a lot of teams. You know, like for instance, Everton or other teams like Championship teams that could win the Carling Cup or Capital One, whatever it is now, whatever ad sponsorship here cup. But whatever team wins that gets a spot in the Europa League and therefore can get in the Champions League. You know, that's before where it was just sort of, yeah, you get a spot in Europa League and you can play in that. Well, nobody particularly cared about the Europa League anyway. But now that there's an actual prize for winning it, you know, that I think that could value the League Cup a lot more than it was previously. And to play like your under-21s or just say like, I'll stick the reserves out. You know, if you're going to do that, there's not much point having the trophy anymore because it just, yeah, like Andy said, it just devalues it, really.
Get rid of it altogether then.
But then again, it's still a cup. It's still a competition that everyone's going to go in at the start of the season and wanting to win. It's a trip to Wembley. You know, like Leon was saying, it's a chance to get to the Europa League, have a good cup run, you know, play some of the bigger boys in Europe. You know, look at Birmingham City a couple of years ago.
That's the thing, and also the money you're going to earn. If you're sort of a low Premier League team and you're going away to someone like AC Milan who's been knocked out of the Champions League group stages or something, you know, that's a big like earning.
That's a huge opportunity. I mean, to get a chance to play a big team like that, it doesn't happen all the time, and it's because of the Capital One Cup. You know, Birmingham had the chance in Europe. You know, you look at Portsmouth as well, had the chance in Europe back in the day. You know, it's a great opportunity for teams to get in there, face on the big boys, have a big day for the club, like you were saying, get some revenue in, boost the profile, and all the success that comes with it.
Do you remember how Birmingham got into it?
Andrew, is that your question there, mate?
No, sorry, I can't remember. There was bad signal that day. I missed that match.
How convenient.
No, but but when the topic we're going into, obviously, I think you could talk about getting rid of one of the cuts, but then, you know, it's a tradition. You can't really get rid of it. But I think if the FA wanted to make money out of it, I'm sure we'd see another cup.
The amount of games that get played, and then the international tournaments that get played, there's got to be some sort of compromise. And I know everyone seems to think that footballers have an easy life and they train a couple of hours a day and they lounge about all day playing FIFA and they play for 90 minutes and how can they be tired? But come on, guys, let's be honest. If you played Monday night, you played Thursday night, you played Sunday, you played Wednesday for an entire season, then the team that your international team got to the World Cup final or the European Championships final or the African Cup of Nations final or the South American Cup final, whatever it is, and then there's straight away you go on holiday for 2 weeks and you're straight back into football again. It takes its toll on you.
No, I do agree with that one.
And
I do agree. I know what you're saying.
There's so much. There's a footballer's life is short. a footballer's working life is short. And you see, look at Andrew made a great point there. How annoyed are Manchester City going to be if Wilfred Boney gets a dodgy challenge in the African Cup of Nations, does his cruciate knee ligaments, like Bojan did on when was it Tuesday night?
Yeah,
Monday night
against Rochdale. Yeah,
Bojan's out now for the rest of. What were they 4-1, 4-0? They won the game 4-1. Could have brought him off at half time. He's now out for the rest of the season. If Wilfred Boney gets injured and he does his cruciate knee ligament, they've spent £28 million on a player, probably, I'm guessing, 150 grand a week, for a player that's not going to kick a ball for them, who quite possibly might never be the same player again.
Yeah, definitely.
For an absolute pointless tournament. Because it can't be that. How many times? I'll put this to the three of you. How many times when the African Cup of Nations come round do we have the West Ham incident, where all of a sudden a player who's supposed to go to the African Cup of Nations, is important to his football club, gets a mysterious injury, he can't travel, he can't fly, he can't do anything, but then 7 days later comes on after 45 minutes and scores the winning goal in the FA Cup.
That's true. But I also remember France saying to Chelsea when they wanted Claude Makelele to come, they wanted him to come to the international qualifications or something like that, and they said, well, he's really injured at the moment, and they said, well, we can stop him playing for the club if he doesn't play international football. He has to physically retire unless we want to select him. Teams could actually do that, they have their own medical teams. I think that's poor on, I think it was Alex Song, wasn't it, for West Ham?
Yeah, he retired.
Yeah, he, I think it was, West Ham kept saying he was injured, but, Cameroon have their own medical team, I think it's a bit poor on their part, don't you think? Yeah,
no, I agree with that one. I know what you're saying. I think it all comes down to that. It's that club versus country row. I'm not quite sure the figures, but I'm going to guess Diafra Sakho is getting paid more by West Ham than he is by Cameroon to make an appearance in the competition there. So, and with all due respect to Cameroon, they're not going to go and set the world alight. They're not going to, they got knocked out yesterday. They're not going to win the World Cup as long as he's playing. Yeah, he could earn a good career with West Ham. He could, bang in the goals, help him into Europe.
And also from the players' point of view, I don't know if you guys agree, but Andy Carroll seems to be in the form of his life at the moment, and he's probably thinking, if I go off, that leaves me down the ladder even more.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. I mean, like Rich was saying, a player's career is short. All it takes is for a couple of years on the bench, and you got another Scott Sinclair, wasting away at a club, and it's an extreme example. But players will be thinking that they've got 10, 15 years to maximise their own potential and to win as many trophies as they can.
Yeah.
Sitting on the bench. No, probably not. That's the answer. Any chance they can get to, get the name in the spotlight, get on the score sheet, get that profile, get the chance to win games and win trophies, they're going to want to take.
Or you can rob a football career like Anderson.
Or you can rob exactly. I mean, what happened to Anderson? Is he still getting paid by you lot?
He's going to Everton on a free transfer.
God, no.
Did I want him?
Please no. If that's the case, we can do with Martinez now and be gone with him.
I don't think Anderson's family want him. I don't think anybody wants him.
It could be worse. It could be Bebe.
Hey, Bebe is going to be the world's best player. Trust me. Anybody that pays £7 million for a homeless man, there's got to be something there. He tore Real Madrid to pieces at the weekend. Did you see him?
Can't say I did, but.
We'll take your word for it, Rich.
Yeah, we'll take your word for it. But then saying that, Nani seems to be doing quite well in the Portuguese league. He comes back, knocks Di Maria off his perch.
Yeah. I've just sold him to Arsenal on Football Manager for 25 million. Nice one, Wenger.
But yeah, that was another great topic. But we'll get into the final topic of today's show. Interesting topic actually. After watching them in the Championship, is what's happened to Leeds United. Seem to have really hit a downslope in the last what should we say, 15, 20 years.
I think the thing is with Leeds United. I mean, I know there was all the ridicule and stuff of.
Didn't you steal their best player at one point?
Well, we to be perfectly honest, we took two of their best players. To let's be fair. I mean, Alan Smith was quite possibly one of the best English talents around at one point.
Yeah,
he was top draw.
He had fantastic hair as well.
He was brilliant. And
that's the main point.
The thing is, what I love the most about Alan Smith is he did an interview not too long before he signed for United, and it was a similar interview. I don't know if you ever saw when Steven Gerrard was injured and he did Sky Sports a few years ago, and I think it was when Richard Keys was still the main presenter there, and he asked him, if he'd ever play for Manchester United or he'd ever sign for Manchester United. He said no, he would never ever sign for Manchester United. And Alan Smith said the same thing. They asked him if he ever left Leeds United, where would he go? And he said he'd go anywhere other than Manchester United. I'd never go there.
2 weeks later.
2 weeks later.
Yeah, he's outside Old Trafford holding a shirt with Sir Alex.
He was holding his shirt and kissing the badge. So thanks very much for that, Leeds. I just think, honestly, on a serious point with Leeds United, there was the ridicule and stuff of obviously the rigmarole of owners spending, was it something stupid like £10,000, £20,000 a week on fish for the reception at the club that died after a week or something? And
I mean, the one story that got me was the I think was it what kind of name? Was it Seth Johnson?
Yeah, when his agent wanted like £20 million, 20 grand or something, 20 grand a week, and Leeds United came back with something like, well, we'll give him 80 grand a week.
And his agent sat down as well. Wasn't expecting that. Signed the contract there and then, and that was it.
But I mean, obviously,
don't say nothing. Sign it and get out quick.
That's it. Get your 5-year deal and
I just
never
think
work again.
The thing with Leeds United is it's another one, and it was obviously we missed one out there, which obviously said the Portsmouths and the Blackburns, etc. But Leeds United, I think, is one of the main ones in regards to an owner.
Yeah,
that
definitely
spent well over his means.
They
had to start selling players, and they've slowly declined. But for me, I think the reason why I wanted to bring this topic up is this owner that's obviously now left the club, who sacked a renowned manager who's managed in the Premier League, managed in the Championship, done well with football clubs. To sack that manager and bring in a non-league football manager, that clearly for me is the owner thinking, right, all I need is a puppet.
Yeah, what does that say to the players as well? If you're a player at Leeds, you're going to, you're Brian McDermott who's had a great job, great relationship with the fans, and then he gets replaced by, some ex-Forest Green Rovers manager. I mean, the players there must be thinking, what's the point being here?
But also to lose a player of who was such held in high regard by the fans in Ross McCormack, to him to go to Fulham, it really says a lot about the club, because if someone like Everton, for instance, come calling, you expect him to take the jump from the Championship to the Premier League, but not to Fulham.
And what got me as well, that last week or so, is club captain Stephen Warnock leaving to Derby to sit on the bench. I mean, if your club captain is prepared to jump ship to play a squad role in a rival Championship team, I mean, what does that say about the squad harmony? What does it say about the prospects at Leeds? It's a worrying time for them. 2 points off the drop zone in the Championship, no investment coming in from the owner, a squad that's looking pretty poor. I'm worried about Leeds this year. I've got a soft spot for Leeds. Back in the 2000, 2001 years of Viduka and Kuhl and
had a real team, didn't they?
They had a great squad. I mean, Don Matteo scoring in the San Siro. They had a wonderful squad, and they were everyone's kind of second favourite team back then. I mean, United fans.
I've not got one soft spot for any of them, and I couldn't care less whether they go out of business.
There you go. Spoke from a true Mancunian there.
I really, really couldn't. I lived in that city for 5 years, and I despised it.
I'll retract that comment then. I'll say, majority was then. Majority was had a bit of a soft spot for Leeds.
I think a lot of us, when we look back on it, we see that team that was challenging for the Premier League to suddenly this, and it's just like, it's not even a decent Championship team anymore.
I think that if they stay up this year, it'll be because the 3 teams below them are so poor, not because Leeds are any quality. I mean, next season as well, what are they going to do? You know, they've got to start pushing up for a squad. You know, for a club as big as Leeds, huge fan base. You know, the biggest club in Yorkshire. You know, in fan base terms and stature, for them to be battling relegation in the second division, it's not what they want to be doing. I mean, a few years ago, they looked like they're on the back up again. They got promoted, things were looking okay, but they just suddenly nosedived in the last couple of years, and it's worrying times for them. If they don't sort things out and they don't get, you know, a new owner in who's going to, you know, put a bit of cash into the club without sacking the manager every 2 weeks, if they
like have a bit of patience, you know, just like see the team develop instead of just expecting to. I mean, they've got a massive catchment area. You know, Leeds is a big city. You know, there must be some good pool of talent there, young lads who want to, you know, Leeds United through and through. Just start focusing on the academy, bring the lads through, get a local feel to the club, get the fans back on side, and take it from there really, and try and progress that way.
Guarantee you that they'll play FC United before they play Man United in a league game.
Well, that's on tape. We've got that on record, Rich. Let's see if it comes true. We'll see how well that one goes.
Yeah, Andrew, we haven't really had your opinion on this. What do you think of Leeds' sort of dip from humanity at the moment?
I think basically it's been pretty much brought up by you guys. It's Leeds, Bradford and Blackburn Rovers are perfect examples of where the English FA have let down football. They've just let completely off-the-wall owners just come in, throw pretend money about and say, this is how much I can spend. Nobody's at all checked the actual finance of where everything's going. And then the owner, Portsmouth, for example, just turned around and goes, I want my money back. Takes it all away, and then Portsmouth look round to say, where's all the money go? So it's
glad we haven't got anyone like that.
But I say, like, the FA has just completely let down so many of England's greatest clubs, and just because somebody's thrown a bit of money around, he possibly puts them their way, and just they've just been able to do whatever they want. Yeah.
And also, especially from when we've seen teams with owners sort of come in like Chelsea and like Manchester City and spend huge amounts of money, you know, they think if they go the league below and if they don't have as much and spend a bit less, they think that they can kind of do that in the Championship, then get to the Premiership and earn a bit of money and sort of be able to keep it stable. But it seems like everyone who's tried to do that in the Championship have failed miserably. You know, no sort of team has had a huge owner come in and buy loads of players and then go straight back up, because the teams that have come up, you know, okay, we could say QPR, but I think they're going down again this year anyway.
I think the betting is a great point, and look at that as well. I mean, the one team you could say who've come up and, you know, made a name for themselves is Swansea, and they've done it with a local consortium, a Swansea born and bred owner, and they've developed the squad. They've not spent millions and millions, you know, they've not bought without the means. They've done it the proper way, and now they're paying the benefits for it. They've got a great stadium, they've got a great squad now, and they can be set for the next.
Yeah, they look very stable. Where, like, you look at some of these Championship teams, they think even if you're coming up, you're going straight back down, like Leicester. Yeah,
again, Leicester, they spent a fair bit of money, haven't they, to get promoted? All for what? One season at the big time.
Like people like Cambiasso, and you think he brought in his experience, but it ain't really done you a lot of good.
No, I mean, it is a strange one. I mean, look at this year. The 3 teams, who I back to go down are going to be Burnley, Leicester, and QPR, all 3 promoted teams. And I think it does say a lot about the gulfing class at the moment between the Championship. Will it put potential owners off if they, to buy Championship clubs? If they can't see, if they're going to throw millions of pounds at it and it's not going to pay off, where's the attraction?
Yeah, that's true.
I think that obviously when you say that the golfing class, obviously it clearly is once they come up to the Premier League. But I think with the teams that go down, there's not really that much golfing class, so to speak. I mean, if you look at the teams that went down last season, Norwich are 8th, Cardiff are 13th in the league.
Yeah,
they're not doing well at all. I mean, it wasn't too long ago Wigan were winning the FA Cup against Manchester City, and it looks like they're going to get relegated from the Championship this year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Blackpool were in the
Southampton. We've seen Southampton dip quite low and fight back up.
You've more than likely this season. For me, it looks like Bournemouth and Derby are both going to get automatic promotion. Are Bournemouth going to really stay in the Premier League? No, they're not. But the revenue that they've they get from being in the Premier League means that they're going to survive in the Championship for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and more than likely be able to challenge for promotion again. The likes of Derby, there's no reason why Derby City cannot come up to the Premier League and stay there.
Yeah,
they've got
because
the stadium for it. They've got the history. They've got the fan base. They've got the manager. They've got no reason why Derby can't stay in the Premier League.
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, Derby, the biggest attendance outside of the Premiership, one of the biggest fan bases outside of the top league. That's a club made to be a success in the Premier League. They went up, the right few additions, do it cleverly. They could be, a stable-mate team in the Premier League. They've got it all ready for them, Derby County, and I think it'd be a great end to the season. The Championship is looking really good. There's 6 and 7 teams pushing for promotion. I think it could be a great end, but I think Derby County the one. If they can get promoted this year with that infrastructure, the manager they got behind them, and the stadium, they could do really well next year and look to build on that and become a mainstay.
Yeah, definitely. But also we got to see who actually goes down, because you said you thought Burnley, QPR, Leicester. Am I right? Yeah,
they're my 3 tips, and it's a shame.
You don't think maybe Sunderland?
I can't see it. I think Sunderland. I don't rate Poyet as a manager. I think he's a lot all talk and no real action. I'm not his biggest fan, but they do tend to get a lot of results. They're not winning games, but they're not losing as many. You'll see QPR, Burnley, and Leicester when they're getting beat pretty much week in, week out at the moment. Sunderland aren't. They're getting those draws. They drew at home to Chelsea. They're getting points here and there, and I think they'll be okay. They've got enough quality in that squad. I think with Defoe as well, that you guys talked about last week. I think with him coming into the squad, that experience they'll have will help them stay up. I mean, you compare Defoe to, no disrespect, but compare him to a Joa at Leicester or a Danny Ings. He's a different class of player. I think with that in your squad, with the Premier League experience, I think they'll be fine. And if they get relegated, I'll be very, very surprised.
I think the thing with the relegation zone, I mean, obviously, it does look like Leicester City are going to go down. I mean, 4 wins all season, 13 defeats. I mean, it's not too dissimilar to QPR, to be perfectly honest, but I mean, if you go all the way up to 12th place in the Premier League, and obviously 12th for Everton at the moment, but Everton, Crystal Palace are on 23 points, West Brom, Aston Villa, 22 points, Sunderland, Burnley, 20, Hull City, QPR, 19 points. That's only 2 wins for Hull and 2 defeats for Everton, and they're in the bottom half of the table.
I couldn't agree more with you. I really, the way the league is this season, we've got, Everton, speaking of Everton terms, we've got Liverpool, Chelsea and Palace our next 3 games. We could lose all 3 of those and be, second bottom come, mid-February. That's how tight this league is at the moment. And it's going to be a great end to the season.
You should be beating a mid-table team like Liverpool, though, to be fair.
You'd hope so, but, this is Everton. We're born to fail in the derby. That's all I've known for Everton, so...
And also Sturridge potentially back for the derby. That
don't forget as well, it's Gerrard's last derby for Liverpool, so he's bound to score at least a hat-trick.
He's an Everton fan, isn't he?
Yeah, he won't say that, will he, though? He's Everton born and bred. They all are, mate. Gerrard, Carragher, they all are Everton. Just don't admit it.
Yeah, to be fair, he might see the blue, think he's playing for Chelsea, think he's playing against Chelsea and score an own goal, so...
There's always hope, mate. There's always hope.
But no, that's the end of the show. Thank you, Andy, for coming on. You've been a great guest.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for the invite.
More than welcome each time. Like you said, if you're a fan and you want to get involved with the show, please leave a comment in the video and get involved with us on social media. We have Andrew running that. And thank you.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.